Apostate, apostle. It's kind of like a palindrome.
Hello YouTube. I want to say I have a tremendous respect for both Matt Dillahunty and the Atheist Experience, and I really appreciate Free Thinker for posting this stuff so I can get access to both of them since I don't live in Texas and can't see it on TV. One thing I've seen from him though that I absolutely can't abide, and I've seen it cropping up quite a bit in some of our more dogmatic atheists here on YouTube, is something called the default position. If you want to hear Matt's definition of this position, there'll be a link in the description. I'll also try and get a link section at the end of this video, although I have a feeling it's just going to be Matt's link. Either way, I'm not posting it here. So, what is this default position? The argument is simple and can be stated thus. For all claims, be they positive or negative, the default position is not to accept that claim until it is supported. Note this is non-acceptance and not active rejection. I'll get into that in a minute. The default position is not unreasonable as it stands. Someone comes up and runs up to you and says, "Hey, I've got a flying unicorn," you're probably not going to buy into that. But it has been corrupted by a lot of very dogmatic persons to be a sort of an I win tactic in any kind of serious intellectual debate. Let me see how this works. First, I'm going to illustrate for you how the default perspective applies to a nice binary claim. Let's take something relatively fun and harmless. So on this side, we'll say God exists. Now, this is a binary claim, and it comes with an opposite belief, which is no, he doesn't, or God does not exist. Neither of these claims is a default claim. You cannot prove God exists, and you cannot prove a negative. Therefore, the default position rejects both of these claims, and it rejects them equally. If these claims are on a number line, you'll find does exist at number 1, which is our first positive whole integer. You will find it does not exist at -1, which is our first negative whole integer. Note this is a negative belief statement. Something is not there. Between these two whole numbers, you have an incredible array of varying belief levels or stats, whatever, anything you want to call it, where someone kind of believes, strongly believes wholeheartedly. I don't see how way you could believe more than one, but I'm sure there's some fundamentalists who try really, really hard. To get back to my point, you can now see this on a number line, and here we have the default position right in the middle at 0. The default position is non-acceptance, and in a binary claim, if you can't accept the positive and you can't accept the negative, you can't accept either. The default position is pretty darn dull. Essentially, all you can say from the default position is, I don't know. As a matter of fact, I don't know really is the best definition for this default. We could call it agnosticism. That is sort of the definition, but we're seeing a lot of people here claiming this is in fact atheism. Now, as we're looking at the number line, hopefully you can see that if we claim that 0 is atheism and everything between 0 and -1 is atheism, then there's more possible atheistic beliefs than theistic beliefs or anything else you want to claim on that level. This is where the intellectual dishonesty comes in. This is a debater's tactic. They're attempting to win the debate first by claiming that the default of any claim is non-acceptance, and then somehow this non-acceptance is atheism. Now this is done by a pretty sneaky little thing where they use the original Latin a to mean not, and then they take the theism. So atheism becomes not theism. Just for fun, here's the definition of atheism from dictionary.com. You'll notice the definition is someone who rejects the belief in God, not theism. But let's actually address the intellectual dishonesty of this not theism idea. I think we'd all agree that chairs are not theism. This means that chairs are atheism. Deists are atheism, interstellar gas is atheism. We can't say about bunnies, they may have some very theistic beliefs since we can't know their mindset, but the grass they're eating is probably also atheism. As a matter of fact, when you define atheism as not theism, it encompasses so many things that it effectively becomes a useless distinction. Now, I've heard it claimed that it's only within the realm of belief that atheism is not theism, but this is not in the definition. If you're going to claim a literal definition based on some Latin semantics about how the word is formed, you get to be stuck with all of the available meanings you've just opened up. Thank you, Pandora. However, it's not the only sense in which this is intellectually dishonest. Even if we acknowledge, okay, non-belief can be atheism and negative belief can be atheism, the atheism of non-belief is in direct conflict with the atheism of negative belief. As a matter of fact, it conflicts every bit as much as it conflicts with positive belief because our default position rejects both positions. It will reject absolutely any argument of any kind for either side. Moreover, the notion that atheism can include the 0 point only works with the current words we're using. Here's a little story showing you how the definition becomes exactly inverse with a slight change in terminology. Let's pretend back in the good old days when we're writing our language that instead of predominantly people believing in a god, most people believed there wasn't a god, and it was only a small group of intellectuals who thought there was such a thing. So your average person was defined as a noist, for no thing being there, noist. And the people who believed in a god became the anoists. Now, if we're all still speaking Latin, the anoists suddenly have just as valid a claim to that 0 default position as the noists would. However, if this were a true concept, it would be true regardless of the labels we affix to it. That's why 1 plus 1 is always 2, even if we call them rock plus rock, or stone plus stone, or cow plus cow. As long as the word we use equals 1, then having 2 of them will always equal 2. That proves that 1 plus 1 equals 2 is a true concept. Unless we start getting into decimals and things, but we'll call it whole numbers. At any rate, I'm hoping you can see how ridiculous this idea is. I appreciate you watching. Keep an open mind. Here's that link I promised for you. And I'll catch you guys all later.